It's time for really quick equity and excellence in teaching tips. I am your host, Michelle Singh, an educator, professor, author, student, and mother. I'm happy to share this topic from the Equal methodology, which is a framework for diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. So let's get right into our conversation. Let's talk about why you need a positive classroom culture. A healthy and positive classroom culture makes students feel safe and seen and valued and even welcome. I can think back on times where I was a little young immigrant girl who sat in classrooms where I felt like I didn't belong. In those settings, I clammed up to feel safe. I silenced my voice and my ideas. And I can also recall times in classrooms where my voice and my contributions were loud and outgoing and valued. And it's because in those settings, I felt seen and I felt respected by my teachers and my peers. Roland Barth says that a school's culture has more influence on life and learning in the schoolhouse than the president of the country, the State Department of Education, the superintendent, the school board, or even the principal, teachers, and parents can ever have. This was true for me, the little immigrant girl who became a teacher and wanted to create spaces for her students to shine. I understand the power that classroom culture can have for students, their parents, their families, and all stakeholders involved in the success of the students who are sitting in those classrooms. And this is what brings me to share these 3 tips about how to achieve a positive classroom climate. Tip number 1 is to bring in student experiences and backgrounds. What we have to be able to do is to draw on our students' experience to enrich the content that we teach and the perspectives that the students are exposed to in our settings. This can be achieved by allowing our students to relate to the content, whether we do that by giving them prompts or developing questions that help them to connect the learning to them. We can give our students opportunities to share their perspectives and to collaborate and to see the diverse thoughts and ideas about social issues that are occurring and current events. We can even help our students see the humanity in the learning materials by allowing them to share their stories or us sharing our own stories that connect to the content. We can help our students really see themselves by choosing diverse texts and materials. I remember freshman year of college for me, I took a class called Introduction to African American Literature. This was where I was first introduced to my shiro, Miss Zora Neale Hurston. It took me getting to college and taking an elective course for me to see myself in the curriculum. Your students don't have to wait that long. So let's move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is to be strategic about how our classrooms are set up. Do the desks look the same every day and for every activity? Consider making some changes if they do. For example, you can use flexible seating arrangements that show students and also the stakeholders like the parents and the families and other teachers that may come into your classrooms and your administrators and leaders and anyone else, right? You can use flexible seating arrangements that shows your students and all these stakeholders that you really value qualities like community and collaboration and curiosity and critical thinking and communication and so much more. You can arrange the desks together for teamwork and team building activities. You can arrange them differently for activities that require discussions or activities that require them to utilize technology and so on. Also consider the classroom decor. Do students see themselves and their contributions in the classroom decor? I had fun in my classroom with my classroom setup. I changed my seating arrangement so often that the students often said they didn't know what they were going to walk into to see, right? And that's because I wanted variety, but I also wanted my seating arrangements, my classroom setup to align with the learning preferences of my students and also to be related to the activities that I was doing that day. I also had areas where students could go if they needed the quiet alone time. And I even had a reading nook area as well. So consider your classroom setup and be strategic about how your classrooms is set up. So now let's go on to tip number 3, which is to build positive and trusting relationships with all stakeholders. Having positive classroom cultures rely on having social and emotional safety. A good start is to have classroom norms and behavioral expectations and contracts where students and even their parents and families have a voice in them, in contributing to them and developing them, right? Another way to build relationships is to invite the parents and the stakeholders into the learning process. You can ask parents to contribute. You can even share resources with parents to support them as they help their children with the learning. Sharing resources can look like, sending home newsletters and surveys, or creating an online space for parents to access helpful resources like due dates and quick tutorials on how to use a particular technology tool that your students use frequently, and so on. So think about some other ways that you can show that you have a classroom culture of support for your students and your stakeholders. Okay, guys, we are at the end of our really quick teaching tip discussion about the power of a positive classroom culture. Our classroom culture sends messages to our students and our stakeholders about relationships and roles and responsibilities and rules and learning and community and diversity and equity and so much more. So isn't it time to unlock the power of your classroom culture? Start by reflecting on the messages your classroom culture sends, or what messages you wanted to send to your students and the stakeholders. The next move is on you. So let's put these ideas to work. Take time to implement and time to reflect. And don't forget to join the conversation. I invite you to share your thoughts and progress with our community online at LCT-E Learning. You may even use the hashtag #LearnWithLCT-E. We look forward to engaging with you. Thank you for watching.